Hello and welcome to this tutorial, and in this tutorial we are going to learn something about the join and the pop operations. So the join and pop are actually some methods of the array and which we are going to use in order to perform some operations on the array. So for example, initially let's start by talking about the join operator or the join method. So basically join is used in order to convert an array into string. So for example, in order to understand how the join works is we initially create an array, and by using that array we convert that array into a string. So let's go ahead and create a simple array. So in order to create an array we type var, which stands for variable. Then let's give this array a name like, let's say, str. So as we are going to convert it into string, we name it as str. So we type var str equals new array, and then inside this array we specify some things. So we specify the elements of array as, let's say, a, then this is, let's say, b. You could take anything as you want, but I am taking the simple alphabets just for the sake of convenience. So once we have these elements with us, the next thing which we do is we use the join function. So in order to use the join function, what we do is that we simply use the array name. So for example, in this case the array name is str, so we type str dot join, and then after it we give parentheses and end it with a semicolon. Now once we have all these things in place, the next thing which you need to do is we need to save these things, that is save the string into something. So in order to save it, we create a variable and we name it as, let's say, string, and then we equate it to this str.join method. Now what happens is that once we create this array, these elements get stored into it. Now once we call the join method for the array, what happens is that this method right here is going to return us a result, and that result is nothing but converting this array into a string. So we need some variable to store the string. So in order to store it, we use the string variable. Now the only thing which we need to do is we need to print out this string in order to check if whether we have successfully converted the array into string or not. So let's go ahead here and let's print out the things which are present in the string variable. So in order to do that, we type document dot write and then just specify the variable name, which is string. Now let's go ahead and save the code and let's execute it on the browser. So as you can see, it has successfully printed out the strings with a comma in between them. Now instead of using comma as a separator between the elements, if let's say you want to give a dash in between these two elements, so in order to do that, what you could do is that you simply could go into this join and then simply add a quotation, and inside the quotation you specify the separator which you want to use. So let's say if you want a dash in between the array elements, you give a dash. Then let's save the code and let's execute it on the browser. So you could see that now the elements inside the array are converted into string and they are separated by a dash, and that is because we have specified the separator as this dash. Now you could change this and you could give this as, let's say you want to separate it by let's say the plus sign. So now as you have given the plus sign, you could just save the code and you could check the result by yourself, and you could see the elements of the array are being separated by a plus sign. So now once we have done with the join method, the next method which we are going to learn is the pop method. Now what the pop method does is that it is going to pop out the last element which is present in an array. So for example, if you consider that an array is a container which has all these elements stacked on one another. So for example, you have a container called array and then you are just pushing some things into it, so that initially we have pushed a into the container, then we have pushed a, so that b is on top of a. Now when we push c, so c becomes on top of b and a is at the bottom, and finally we push d, so that on top of c there is d. Now what happens if you want to pop some element from this array? So popping usually begins from the last element which is inserted into the array. So for example, if you perform a pop operation, what is going to happen is that the last element, which is in this case d, is going to get popped out of the array. So if you want to perform a pop operation, you simply go and you simply type the array name, which is str in this case. So we type str dot pop and use the parentheses and end it with the semicolon. Now just save it. So in order to check whether the element has been successfully popped out, you simply go ahead and use document dot write. So we use document dot right, and inside the parameters we specify the element index. So in this case, as the array is str, we specify the index as this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. So inside it we specify 3. Then we save the code, and when you execute it on a browser, you are going to get the result as undefined, and that is because we have popped out the element, that is we have popped out the last element, which is D. So on D we are getting undefined, and the initial result, that is ABCD, we are getting because of this document.write, and when we are printing out the contents of the array. Now if we go ahead and remove the initial code, which is the join operation, and also remove this document.write, you are going to get only undefined in its place. So if we execute the code now, we are just going to get undefined, and that is because as we have performed the pop operation, we are now getting nothing on the place of 3. So that was all about the join method and the pop method. So basically the join method is used in order to convert any array into a string, and you could add any separator in between them. So basically when you have an array and for some reason you need to convert that array into a string, you use the join operation or the join method. And the next method for arrays which we have studied is the pop. So pop basically pops out the last element which is added into the array or which is present to the array. So guys, that's it for this tutorial, and I hope you understood the two array methods which we have discussed, which are join and pop. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.